Yeah, it's a lot of both, Damien. They were organized individually. I think they are very good defenders. You know, they physical at the right times when you got them into one-on-one situations. I thought guys were good defending. Even in combinations, I thought their guys, you know, they stayed close together for the most part, so they were close enough to help each other if anything broke down. They were really committed, you could see, to the defending aspect, and was like, you know, if our chance comes, we'll try to take it, and if it doesn't, we're going to stay together. And they were committed to that in the long haul. So I think it's a combination of both things. We need to be better, and it's a tricky one too. If I say if we were truly tied and needed to win the game, I would have done things slightly differently too. But it became a game of, like, you don't need to necessarily expose yourself to go try to score goals, especially as the game progressed. Make sure, if they're going to stay in this low block, make sure that we secure the transitions and we deal with it, and while we work through the process of trying to score. But there might have been a time, for example, that I would have been very happy to put on a second forward into the situation and set us up a little bit differently. But when you're ahead and not giving up really much on the defensive side, I chose to keep it a little more like stable and maybe a little less exposed. I felt like we could have been a little bit exposed if I went to another one. Could we have maybe created more chances? Maybe, but it's a knockout situation and you have the advantage. It was for me, and also because we're early in the season and we haven't trained many of these things, I didn't want to put too many things out in the early stages. So happy for the guys. It's been even going from Coachella and playing the 3 games really quickly in Coachella to then very quickly jumping on a plane and going to Panama to coming back and quickly playing New York and quickly turning this game around. I just feel like we're trying to learn some things while we're playing games, and each game, as I was saying to Scott, each game has been a different game. Down there, they played in a 4-4-2 in which their 2 wide midfielders were really low, so at times they were like a 6. It's a really slow field. It was hard for us to increase the speed of the game. They did a great job of defending us, just bogging the game down. Then we go to New York City, much more open, pressing. We needed to play, quicker. We got an early lead. Then we go down a man and we have to deal with that situation for about 20 minutes. And then you come back to this game. They don't set up the same way. They set up now in a 5, which is a different. So now so it becomes like we're seeing these different things in these early games that I think are going to help us, in the big picture, but we're not actually preparing for these things. We're just kind of like playing games and trying to solve the problem over 90 minutes. And tonight being a catch-22 between you have the lead by the away goal, I hedged a little bit on how much I was willing to expose us in order to try to go win the game while we worked through the things that we will get better at for sure as the season progresses. So I felt Zhao was on an island a little bit through a lot of the night. It was hard for us to get into him. Again, I would have adjusted some things on a different day, probably in a different scenario.
Greg, you advance. That's the important thing. But there seemed like there were a lot of frustrations out there. You could see guys sort of in their body language and just the way that maybe they were talking to each other. Is that cause for concern for you, or is just everybody working things out?
No, as I said to them, I appreciate the frustration because we had a standard and we expected to come and want to win the game, but I also think we need a little humility early in the season that we have some things that we need to continue to improve upon, and they came in with a very not really willing to expose themselves in any real way, and there's things that we certainly need to improve upon. So as I said to them before the game, if we don't give up a goal, we're through, and while we work through the process of trying to create opportunities and stuff like that, we keep it at 0. And so guys are frustrated because they wanted to score goals and they wanted to create, and I think in their mind showing up at the stadium, they saw us pulling away in this tie and winning it more convincingly. But I think that's good to have that mentality, but now we see that we still have things we've got to improve upon, and that's the humility part that we need to take from it, but be happy that we're on to the next round.
2 things. One, losing Nascimento for the next Champions Cup game diminishes your options.
I didn't even see the situation, so I don't know. I don't know what's there. I leave it. I think Will and the guys maybe saw and have an opinion and maybe go from there. But I didn't even see what really happened, so I don't even know.
Well, I'm not so much concerned with that as you now don't have him for the next game, and
Correct.
and what that does to your options in that game. And then secondly, you now get a week where you don't have to play a midweek game, and so
I can't wait.
Yeah, so you're able to
We got to
work.
play a big one on Saturday first.
You got a big one Saturday, and then you got to play the next weekend, and then you're back into
Yeah.
the every other week. Just in terms of building the learning stuff that you need to do on the practice field that you're not getting time for, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting next week. Also, we're trying to get Elijah back. We're trying to get Isaiah back. I rested Amiro because he has an issue that's a little bit that needs time, and we're trying to benefit from the fact that he's red carded this weekend to say, okay, we're going to give you tonight through when we need you back out in 10 days to 12 days to try to heal that. So there's some healing, and then the guys who are playing a ton of minutes right now are going to need to recover from this week a little bit next week. But we will, certainly as we get back on the field, we'll try to prioritize the things that we can work on in 1 week to have ourselves as prepared for the next. And I think the next one's 5 games in 16 days. And so it's 4 and 10 to 5 and 16. It doesn't get a ton easier in that regard. Hopefully we'll be a little healthier. And then we can look at how we're going to approach it. But we certainly are going to have to take the experiences of this, use video to learn, but also do a few things, I think, on the training field to take steps forward.
And in terms of the options for striker next?
Yeah, I mean, if Nasi's out, then, you're looking at other guys. Joe can play up there. Marco has played up there in a certain role. So obviously it becomes a little less, but it's, the same guys that we've had over the last year or so without Christian, unfortunately.
Hey, Greg. Thanks so much for talking to us. Congratulations for going through. As you look at this team and how they went through, are you satisfied with the way that the play is evolving, especially after the first couple minutes in the first half? That there seems to be a drop-off of in intensity.
Yeah, I think, as I was saying earlier, I think right now we're a little in it, as I said. We played the 3 games in Coachella in short. We tried to divide in Coachella and be really 2 teams that were trying to maximize minutes, and we were trying to physically get ourselves ready for this week as much as anything so that we could keep guys as healthy as we could. And I would say we probably spent less time on the tactical stuff in the latter part of preseason just to try to get guys physically as ready. So I think some of what's out there is just some of our partnerships and relationships aren't as tidy right now as we'd like them to be. I think each of these games has been different. I think frustration has hit a little bit with the super low blocks and guys, not creating many chances has been a little bit frustrating for guys. I do think early in the game, so this is for me, is we could have been a little more patient at times and just played the context of the game a little bit. It was on them to have to, at some point, come try to figure out how to come to the game. And I felt like whenever you play a team that's playing in a 5-4-1 block, you don't need to go rushing into them. It actually plays into their hands a little bit. And then when you force the attacks with nowhere to go because they have so many guys under the ball in a tight space, you turn over the ball and now you do some work and recovery to get the ball, and then they have everybody under the ball and you do it again. And so I felt at times we just needed to show maybe a little bit more patience and bring the ball to the right, swing it to the left, swing it to the right, make them think about shifting a lot and let them do a lot of the running and see if they would come out at all. And when they came out, then we would see the spaces to attack through. But I felt like we were trying to force a lot of attacks in the first half, and it became frustrating because the spaces weren't really there for us to try to go through those moments, if that makes sense. And so I think as we go through this process together as a group, and now we start to see these low blocks with 9-10 guys under the ball, it's learning how to be a little bit more patient, make the opposition shift and move and work defensively and be patient and recognize the moments to attack. Instead sometimes I felt like we came in this game with the mindset we're going to win by 4. and we went to force the game to win by 4 against a team that's sitting with 9, 10 guys in a low block under the ball, and that's almost what they want you to do in a way, right? And so I think it's us finding the balance in that, and then making sure that we are close enough together and we have guys in the right spots that when we do speed up the game that we're playing and moving. Like I felt like in the first half, sometimes when Gabe got active and he started to move and we started to loosen up a little bit and he would start to come inside and guys were coming around and Marco was interchanging, we started to see some combinations and some actions happening. And then there's times I felt like we were just really fixed and like impatient and stuck. So things that I think that need to evolve as we continue to go. Also, I would have thought about setting up differently, as I said, to put more guys a little bit closer together against their block, but a risk reward on when you're already winning in the situation maybe kept me a little bit more not necessarily going with that more aggressive positioning.
What does it actually mean to the group to get through to the next round, and what do you know about the next opponent? Thank you.
Yeah, I think everyone deep down, everyone is a little bit like wishing we would have scored some goals and created a fun environment, got our fans into the game, all that kind of stuff. I think that was part of what the guys wanted to do. But they're obviously very happy to get through this density of these games and the travel associated with it and everything else just makes this a bit of a tough period. And you want to get through this period in the best way you possibly can. And so I think everybody is certainly very happy to be moving on to the next round. Now we just don't even have time to think about the last game because the next one is in 2 days, whatever. And so guys are just thinking about now just recovering and how they get ready for what's going to be a tough home match again against a Charlotte team who is a good organized team, difficult to play against. And so I think guys are just really just getting in fatigue, getting from one game to the next as quickly as they can. I don't know a ton about the next opponent yet, just with these 4 games on top of each other and the fact that you have to get through tonight, I just haven't really even looked ahead that far. And so what I know is it's a long ways away. So if we thought Panama was far away, till you go to Jamaica. So it'll be another very long travel inside of what's a busy 5 games in like 16 days. So but we'll look at the opponent as we get through this weekend, after this weekend, and we'll figure out what's next. Yeah, thank you.
Greg, just looking at Charlotte and your rotation or how you're trying to get guys in and move guys around, does it hurt you that you had to sort of stay into this, what I'd call maybe an A lineup for longer, if you guys would have gotten 2-3 goals and everything goes, you maybe could have rotated a little more, or do you feel like you have enough bodies ready for Saturday?
I think we'll be ready, and I think one of the good things about a game like tonight is it's not end to end. When you're doing a lot of the running but it's in half of a field, it's not the same as if you're doing a lot of vertical running over the course of the game. So I think I'll look at tonight, and I haven't seen the data, but for example, when we played the game in Panama, we ran 2 kilometers less in the game in Panama than the game the other day against New York City. I assume it's going to be similar tonight. There's going to be a pretty significant difference in the ground that the guys had to cover. The high-speed running wasn't a ton because I feel like the game was pretty slow in general. So I do think, yes, it would be great to rest guys when you're in such a busy and find the way to rest guys. I think the guys who need to turn around will be ready to turn around, and guys who need to step up will be anxious to get out on the field and play. Yeah.
Just one more for me. The other day you said Tommy was trending towards Saturday. Is that still the case? And what does he bring to this lineup?
Yeah, still the case. He trained yesterday, and he had a light day today because he's been going every day up until today. He'll train with the group tomorrow. He brings, again, he's a mobile player. He's a guy who can play on the wing, he can play as the 10, but he likes to move through those higher pockets, and he's active. He's a busy and finding those gaps and pockets. He can move with the ball, which is a nice add, so somebody who can pick up the ball and drive into spaces and play off of it. He's got good vision, he's got a great shot. So he's a competitor. I mean, he's he's wired tight and he's ready to compete. So again, he brings us another guy that's in that higher line who can create and move attacks forward and can find passes, hit shots, do things like that. So he'll bring us, whether together or separately, he brings us, somebody like not the same as Marco, but kind of in a similar type of role who can help to move the game. So, in these tight 4 games in 10 days, 5 and 16, we're not killing Marco, trying to let him always have to make the game, things like that. So he brings us some versatility, but he's certainly an attacking-minded player who can do a number of things. He just had some like a knee irritation of some kind that we had to just calm down, and he did a couple PRPs, and he's ready to go.
We'll take our last question from the Zoom. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Coach. This is a lot in a sense where, you guys, a month ago, a lot of the guys were still on vacation. Here you get sort of tossed into a tournament and a season starting. How do you sort of keep them sharp, not only knowing that their physical fitness is still ways away to being full form or what it will be, but how do you keep them sort of mentally sharp and in shape and physically too, with so much being thrown at them so quickly, as they're just getting used to a season, having a tournament and the regular season kind of at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. For us, it's just trying to, in between these games, is try to give the guys who need the recovery time, the space to recover, the different tools and mechanisms that we have that can help them recover physically. To be honest, we haven't done a ton of meetings and a ton of tactical things because guys are also, mentally pretty exhausted. So we do some pretty simple setup and we show the opposition, but not very long. And so we just try to keep things as fresh as we can and give guys space to recover, not overload their minds or their bodies. So yeah, it's play, recover. And then the guys who haven't played a ton, we just try to keep pushing them forward so that they don't lose fitness in this time period. They haven't played as many minutes as some of the other guys. So it's just it's part of it. I know ultimately guys love to play games, and so they're happy to play games, but they also take longer to recover after games. So those two things don't fit together great. But next week we'll have to be really mindful of giving guys a chance and space to physically and mentally recover before we go push the next series. Look, in the grand scheme of things, it would be a lot easier to start Champions League after 3 or 4 weeks of your season and then to get into it there. You do when you have a game and then a week in a game, you have a chance to learn from the last game, work on some things on the field, prepare for the next game, give guys a chance to recover, build up their fitness. All those things happen when you start like this. It's just you're just working through things kind of on the fly. So it's great to be playing in Champions League. You never want to not be playing in Champions League, but it does create a different set of early challenges for sure.
Thanks, Coach. Get some rest.
Thanks. Appreciate that.